Now the latest from ITV News Central in the East Midlands.
Hello, welcome to ITV News Central for the East Midlands. On the programme tonight, a visa red tape nightmare for this Nottingham man's family. His Ukrainian wife is fleeing the fighting with her loved ones.
The government, they just seem to be, to me, it feels like they're deliberately dragging their feet and sending you around in circles.
I'm at Mel's Cafe in a lay-by just off the A1 in Rutland, where she's giving out free breakfasts and lunches for Ukrainian lorry drivers.
Also tonight, the new super prison accused of being a soft touch. It has a gym, carpentry studio and even a chocolate factory.
In sport, I'm live from the City Ground, where Forest have already dumped Arsenal and Leicester out of the FA Cup. Can they do the same again tonight to Huddersfield Town?
And it looks as though the next few days aren't too bad, but there are a couple of anomalies in our weather. So join me later to find out what they are.
Good evening. A couple from Nottingham who flew to Romania to be with their family after they fled the invasion in Ukraine say it's proving impossible to get a visa for their relatives. Akin Yefer and his wife Kate flew out to help her family fill out the forms needed to come to the UK.
But 1 week on, they say they're still waiting for a decision and have no idea if or when everything will be sorted out. They're accusing the British government of dragging its feet. Rajiv Popat has our top story.
Akin Jaffer speaks to his wife Kate, who's currently in the Romanian capital Bucharest with her sister, mother and niece.
Have you heard anything more from the embassy or anything like that? No emails, no nothing.
Akin was there with them but has just returned. Just over a week ago, Kate's family fled their home in Odessa, Ukraine's third largest city. They've seen how some areas across the country have faced continuous bombing and so decided to make the journey to Moldova and then to Romania.
The last conversation with my niece was, come and get me, please.
Akin and Kate from Edwalton in Nottingham flew out to be with their family to help them make the trip to Britain. They've filled out lots of forms, answered countless questions, but still have no idea when and if visas will be granted.
The British people have been amazing raising this money. All my friends are supporting us, but the government, they just seem to be, to me, it feels like they're deliberately dragging their feet and sending you around in circles.
Do you think one of the reasons it's proving difficult is because your wife is British but her family are not? Is that a stumbling block?
They want so much documentation, it's almost impossible. And so to flee a war, you know, with hardly anything, they're asking people for documentation, history of where they've been. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's almost impossible, and I think they know that.
And please, if anybody above in the government can hear us, please help us to bring our families back to the UK. All we want is just be safe with us, you know, and you know, be happy, at least for the time being, you know, until everything is over.
Rajiv Popat, ITV News, Nottingham.
So, what is Britain's position regarding the offer to help those desperately seeking sanctuary here? Why are there delays and hold-ups? Well, for more on this, let's cross live to our political correspondent Alison McKenzie in Westminster. Alison, what have you been hearing?
Well, there's no absolute clarity on the rights and wrongs of what's being done, the extent of Britain's help. For example, Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, saying one thing about visa centres being set up outside Calais, the number 10 official spokesperson saying another. And yet you hear the frustration in the man in Rajiv's report. Boris Johnson was asked about these only 50 Ukrainians who've been processed so far. He dismissed that figure. He says it's many more. And he gave this reassurance. He says that they're doing all they can.
We have two very, very generous routes already. So the family reunion route, which is uncapped, which could potentially see hundreds of thousands of people come to this country, plus there's the humanitarian route. And under that scheme, people can sponsor people coming from Ukraine. We're surging officials into the border countries to help people to come. So to Poland, to Bulgaria, to Romania, also to France.
Well, Alison, what reaction has there been to what the Prime Minister had to say?
Well, many on the Conservative backbenchers saying that Priti Patel and Boris Johnson are right to be proportionate in their response, to hold back in some way for those security checks. But Labour politicians saying tonight, where's the action? Much more needs to be done to help people, as we've seen on our programme. I spoke to Nadia Whittome, the Nottingham MP.
Only 50 Ukrainians have had their visas accepted. That's of 10,000 applications, and I hear so many stories of people in Nottingham and around the country who are struggling to get their loved ones over, and that's why I've called on the government to waive all visa requirements. And in fact, I spoke to the Prime Minister 2 weeks ago before the invasion took place in the chamber, and he told me that they would do all they can, and that is just not happening.
There clearly is a big difference between what's happening with European countries opening their borders and more reservation and concern from Britain. But I saw a tweet earlier from a former Conservative MP who said, why not let people in and offer visas after that? Clearly lots of disparity and many more arguments to come, I believe, on this issue.
Alison, for now, thank you.
Well, the aid effort across the East Midlands to help Ukraine shows no sign of slowing down. If you saw our bulletin yesterday, you might remember seeing hundreds of items, including clothes and children's toys, being donated to the Breaston Farm Shop from the Breaston Farm Shop in Derbyshire.
Well, this morning, volunteers delivered them to a charity in Hampshire, from where they'll be flown to Poland. Volunteers say they're desperate to find an easy way of getting donations to refugees in future.
It isn't feasible to travel to Hampshire every week, and we would like to continue with the donation station if possible. Obviously, we're all watching the news intently, and I'm trying to be productive rather than sort of sit fretting about what we can't do, and do something positive.
Meanwhile, the owner of a roadside cafe in Rutland is supporting Ukrainian lorry drivers by offering free meals.
Mel Weston says she feels desperately sorry for the drivers, many of whom are stranded here thousands of miles from home and worried about their loved ones. Jane Hesketh reports.
Mel has always provided free food to any driver in need. But after seeing the Ukraine crisis in the news, she put out an offer on social media.
We've set up a bit of a safe haven for the drivers to come, park up, have a free lunch or a breakfast. And we're sending them off with a bit of a packed lunch and just generally making them feel welcome, somewhere for them to perhaps sit and have, a bit of a chat and just feel safe for a little while.
She pays for it out of her own pocket and says the whole trucking community are behind her.
It's hard enough for truckers in the UK at the best of times. Never mind them guys being stuck here, not knowing what's happening at home with families and stuff like that. We've had a few drivers that have took food parcels to truck stops up at our local area and stuff for these drivers as well.
I think she's doing a great job. It's a lot more people should be helping them out, basically. I mean, I know on the A14 at Kettering, the truck stop's full of foreign drivers, can't get home.
Yeah, I've got a few coppers in my pocket. I'll donate a few quid while I'm here. I don't go abroad, but it must be terrible being away from home, and they're not knowing what's happening to the families.
It was last month's fire on a ferry in Greece involving two of her regular customers that prompted Mel to act.
Two of our drivers were dumped in Greece with no medical supplies, no clothes, no money, no passports or anything. And it was a really awful thing for them. And I don't want the Ukraine drivers to come here and feel that we're going to treat them the same. I want them. This is now that we can help and we can do our bit.
I think it's a lovely thing to do, but it's such a bad situation we've got back home, so a bit of support like that I think will mean a lot to them.
Ukrainian, now we are brothers with them. We are not. I'm Romanian, so we are not just border country. Now we are like brothers.
Jane Hesketh, ITV News, Stretton in Rutland.
And coverage from Ukraine continues on the new look ITV Evening News, which is on after us. And we'll have a little bit more on that later on.
Other news now. Police are investigating the death of a 3-month-old baby girl in Lincolnshire. Ambulance crews were called to Woodland around Ostler's plantation near Woodall Spa yesterday morning. Officers are urging people not to speculate about what happened, but have arrested a 40-year-old woman and a 54-year-old man on suspicion of being in charge of an out-of-control dog.
A 6th person has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fatal crash on the A46 in Leicestershire. The 20-year-old man from Leicester was arrested this morning. 2 men died in the crash near the Six Hills Junction last month. 3 women and 2 men have previously been charged with murder.
The Justice Secretary has defended a new prison in Northamptonshire that houses a barber's workshop, a gym and even a chocolate factory.
Dominic Raab says the facility will help drive down reoffending rates. Others say it's too much of a soft-touch approach. Graham Stothard has more.
This is HMP Five Wells, the new so-called super prison on the outskirts of Wellingborough. It costs £253 million and has more than 60,000 square metres of living, working and visiting space. It's big, but it also has big ambitions.
Now, this prison's set up to encourage men to go on a journey of rehabilitation and ultimately resettlement back into the community. So everything we do here will be focused on their journey.
To help make that happen, the prison has 7 classrooms and a series of workshops. Ben Okoli helped design how this prison operates. For him, he's proof the system works. He actually started working on plans for Five Wells when he was finishing his own jail sentence for serious offences.
Ultimately, people being able to change for the best, it has to be personal responsibility. But for that to happen, you have to sort of treat the person like a human, and he starts to believe in himself. I started to believe in myself even more when I was away than I'd ever been.
Despite recent investment, the budget of Britain's prison and probation service is still 13% lower in real terms than it was 11 years ago. And not everyone wanted this prison built.
We are looking at a prison system which is not working. Prior to the pandemic, it was incredibly violent, with huge problems in terms of drugs, prisoners harming themselves and violence.
I'm not sure prisons are punishment. The sentence is the punishment. Being detached from your family and the community for a period of time is punishment enough. My responsibility is to create better citizens when they are released, and I'm determined to make that happen.
At the moment, Five Wells is still less than 10% full, and with prison-picked inmates, the real challenges lie ahead. Graham Stothard, ITV News, HMP Five Wells in Wellingborough.
You're watching ITV News Central for the East Midlands. Still to come, a big night for Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. Our correspondent Peter Bean is live at the City Ground. Peter Bean, not long to go now.
That's right, Steve. Just over an hour to kick off. And what an incentive for Forest tonight. If they beat Huddersfield here, it's Liverpool in the quarter-finals next.
Now, we've mentioned that the ITV Evening News is coming up after us, but from tonight, it's not quite as you've seen it before.
It will now run for an hour each and every weeknight. Here's Mary Nightingale.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening, Miss. The ITV Evening News has been a constant presence on our TV screens for more than 2 decades, broadcasting live into millions of homes every day.
3, 2, Staying on 1.
Now we're getting even bigger. We've expanded our teams across the UK.
It's a busy and bustling red carpet.
The winds have been really picking up here since that amber warning came into place.
Today has been nothing short of a disaster for the DUP. There'll be more of the investigative journalism we do best.
This is all mould.
This is all mould.
This fictional party was a business meeting.
And our correspondents will be live across the country and around the world. Have more of the stories that make you smile.
Was that a good surprise?
Yeah.
I can stay here now.
And we're bringing the national weather into the programme too, both in the studio and out on location.
Inside those doors is a huge studio, which I'm still trying to get to grips with. I can't wait to show it off.
Thank you very much indeed for that.
So that's what's coming up, and it all starts tonight here on ITV. We'll see you there.
Well, we heard from the programme's presenter Mary Nightingale right there, and earlier we spoke to her as she was preparing for the show's big debut.
That's right. We asked her a few questions which we thought you might be asking as well, such as what viewers can expect from the new format, including more weather coverage and who we might see popping up on the show. And there are one or two faces which will be familiar to our viewers here at ITV Central as well. But she began by telling us just how big a moment this is for ITV News.
It's lovely to be on the programme. Thank you for having me. I think it is a really big moment for ITV News, actually. They've made the biggest investment in new news jobs for 20 years, and they've really bolstered their teams around the country in the different regions. They've given us an extra half hour, so we're going to be running to an hour. That's 90 minutes together with the local news, you know, your programme straight before us. So I think it's a huge opportunity and it's exciting. It really is. We've been getting more people watching for the last 6 years. We've got about 3.5, 4 million every night. So I think we don't want to change it. We just want to make it more and better. And to that end, we are going to be doing more original journalism, very much calling on the huge talents around the country in the different regions. You know, there is no shortage of news at the moment. Sadly, a lot of it pretty depressing at the moment. But when you make a news programme, you always have to compromise. You always have to leave things out that you would really like to include. Now we will have the luxury of having more time to make the best programme that viewers will want to see. And we've been bolstering our teams in the regions. We've taken a few of your lot. Yasmin Bottleby has joined us, and I think she was at Central until quite recently. She's now going to be working in the north of England. But we want to collaborate. So the big stories that have been playing very big in the regions, we want to actually bring those into the network and actually work with your teams to cover those in a more local way. You know, we don't want to be London-centric. We're very, very aware at ITV News that our heartland is in the Midlands and the north of England in particular, and we want to serve that audience the best way we possibly can. We are bringing on board Alex Beresford, who your viewers may be familiar with from GMB. Well, we've stolen him as well. We're on a stealing spree, and he's going to be in the studio with me towards the end of every programme and covering those big stories, the big climate stories, the weather stories that are so important. And during the summer months, weather permitting, of course, he's going to be out and around the country. So if you keep your eyes peeled, you might see Alex in your region as well.
I'm sure we will. OK, well, there'll be more from Mary at 6:30, of course, after us. But time now to get the sport. We've got an FA Cup clash tonight, and it's been another busy weekend to round up.
Small businesses and local teams, the heart of our communities. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sport Reports.
Yes, the best of the weekend's action is coming up. But first, Nottingham Forest faced Huddersfield Town in the 5th round of the FA Cup tonight, and there is a mouth-watering prize for the winners. Let's go live to Peter Bean, who's at the City Ground for us. Peter, a big night for the Reds.
Absolutely, Steve. I mean, already Forest have been on a fantastic FA Cup run, haven't they? Beating Arsenal and Leicester City here. And up next for them, it's Huddersfield Town of the Championship. And if they can beat them, well then, in the quarter-finals, it would be Liverpool at home. What a tie that would be. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, Huddersfield are an in-form team, and they're currently second in the Championship. And talking of the Championship, let's just go back to last Friday when Forest were in league action. They had the lion's share of possession and chances in the first half of their game against Sheffield United, but went behind when Billy Sharp rose brilliantly to give Sheffield the lead. But 5 minutes into injury time, Forest grabbed a deserved point when Ryan Yates headed in James Garner's corner. That result leaves Forest just outside the playoffs. Anyway, back to tonight's game here, the FA Cup action. We've been getting the thoughts of Forest fans ahead of kick-off.
Since Stevie Cooper come, it's been a different team. Same players basically most of the time, but we just, I don't know, just gone performing.
I just think it's because they all get on as a team and they're just bonding together, and the manager's really, really good.
It's just like playing against these Premier League teams. It's just like we can just go out and throw anything at them because we just feel we're the underdogs anyway, so why not go out and try and win the game?
Yeah, the City Ground will be bouncing tonight for this game. And remember, a reminder, it's on ITV4 tonight if you want to watch it live. And another reminder, there has to be a result tonight, Steve. No replays in the 5th round, so if it does go to extra time, there could be penalties. And then who knows. But the winner, as we know, faces Liverpool in the next round.
Pete, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, an exciting night for Nottingham Forest.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the Premier League now. And Leicester City made it back-to-back wins with a hard-fought victory over Leeds. Phil Brewster has the action.
A crucial win for Leicester, but for large chunks of this match, they had to dig deep after the visitors produced a lively display in front of their new manager, Jesse Marsch. The Foxes had Kasper Schmeichel to thank in the first half, making several crucial blocks, including this fingertip save from Dan James. Soon after, the Leicester keeper was once again called into action, this time using his feet to block Jack Harrison's shot. And minutes later, another swift break by Leeds saw the ball drop to Junior Firpo in the box, only to see his shot blocked by Soyuncu. Leeds continued to press, and had it not been for further saves by Schmeichel in the second half, the Foxes could easily have found themselves behind. But those missed chances were to cost the visitors dear, and in the 67th minute, a slick 1-2 with Iheanacho saw Harvey Barnes produce a precise angle finish to earn all 3 points. The victory lifts Leicester to 10th in the table.
Well, on to Derby, and following a meeting with the City Council, local MPs and representatives of Team Derby administrators Quantuma have agreed to provide an update later this week on moves to identify the preferred bidder for the club. Well, meanwhile, on the pitch, the team kept alive their hopes of Championship survival with a 2-0 win over fellow strugglers Barnsley. Midfielder Ravel Morrison gave the Rams the lead with a lovely worked move, which ended in him dinking the ball over the Barnsley keeper. Or just after the break, Morrison doubled their lead, firing in the rebound after Tom Lawrison had rattled the woodwork. So what did you make of all that then? Well, on my Facebook page, Simon Swan said, well, the Foxes got another 3 points thanks to Barnes, just need to keep playing well and picking up points onwards and upwards.
Meanwhile, Mark Taberer said a must-win game at Pride Park, and we did. 2 great goals by Ravel. Can we be the first team ever to stay up with a 21-point deduction? It's a good question.
Would be amazing. And Cynthia Watson kept on that theme. A fantastic performance from the Rams. Brave team selection by Wayne Rooney got us the 3 points. Thank you to everybody who got in touch.
In League One now, Burton Albion were on the wrong end of a 4-1 thumping away at Oxford United. But Lincoln City ended a run of 3 defeats with a stunning win at home to promotion-chasing Sheffield Wednesday. After just 3 minutes, a scuffed shot from a corner saw John Marquis bundle the ball home to give the Imps the lead. Wednesday equalised after good work down the left saw Saido Barrinho volley home. But Lincoln were not to be denied, and some nice one-touch football in the box saw Marquis deftly slot the ball home in the far corner. 3-1 was the final score. Rugby Union and Leicester Tigers remain top of the Premiership table despite losing to Saracens. Eli Sneyman put the Tigers ahead early on, but 3 tries from the home side saw them take a 9-point lead at half-time. Ollie Chesham went over from close range in the second half to give Leicester hope, but another driving maul near the end saw Saracens cross the line to give them 30 points to 27.
Athletics and Loughborough-based pole vaulter Holly Bradshaw is the first athlete confirmed for this year's Birmingham Diamond League event. After winning a bronze medal for Team GB at last year's Olympic Games in Tokyo, Holly admits she considered retiring from the sport, but says the prospect of competing in front of a home crowd in May and then again in July at the Commonwealth Games was too good an opportunity to miss.
It's just really exciting that it's going to be in the brand new stadium. I mean, we've all seen pictures on social media and everyone's getting super excited. I've not been to visit it myself, but I think, yeah, it's looking pretty special. And the fact that my first competition of the outdoor season will be there is, you know, super, super exciting.
And just to mention that both our big rugby clubs, Northampton and Leicester, lost. So did Leicester in the Women's Super League as well.
Moving on, worshippers in Northampton are celebrating restoration work at their historic church, which has helped bring back some of its former glory.
The dome in All Saints Church was starting to show some signs of deterioration. Well, that's not surprising given it's been there since the year 1680. It's now been given some much needed care, and after 5 months and more than £100,000, the restoration is complete.
It's probably been about 200 years since we really looked after it, and we started to realise there were bits of church raining on our heads, there was water coming through it, and it really started to look very untidy and full of cracks. So we got up there and found out what was wrong, fixed it, and then gave it a new lick of paint. It looks fabulous. We unveiled it on Ash Wednesday last week at the beginning of Lent, and people wowed when they walked in. You could see gasps and people just crashing into things because they were looking up.
Oh, it's stunning.
Absolutely stunning. 1680, did you say?
Yes, 1680.
Goodness me, I can't believe I've never heard of this place before. I feel like I need to book
I wasn't
a visit.
there for the opening, I hasten to add.
Well, you are a little bit more aged than I am, so...
I think that's enough. It's time to move on, quite clearly. It does look amazing. Stay with us, by the way, because we'll tell you why tomorrow is a big day of celebrations for women all over the world.
That's after the weather. Here's Des.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Well, what a day we've been able to enjoy. Even though high pressure's been the dominating feature and gave us a couple of light showers, it's been sunny and relatively dry. Pushing forward, what happens to our weather story? First of all, let's take a look at this picture been sent in by Laura from Kimberley. Kimberley, referred to in the Doomsday Book, William Conqueror's Doomsday Book, as Cinemarelli. The Doomsday Book, of course, a great survey of England all the way back then. Sunny spells today, moderate breeze and frosty over the course of tonight. Like I say, high pressure's dominating feature. Fortunately, it's stopping these frontal systems, and there are a number of them moving into our shores towards the rest of the week, I should say. That high pressure moves towards Europe. Even on Wednesday, it's acting like a blocking high, stopping this system from feeding in. If you do live towards the east, still lots in the way of sunshine, but ultimately the low pressure does win out in the end. By the time this system moves towards us on Friday, that's where we'll start seeing our weather become just a little bit more on the unsettled side. But up until then, it's not too bad. Heading into the overnight story, dry air being brought up from France and Holland and Belgium allows the skies to stay clear, hence the screens turning blue as temperatures dip down to around -1. Towards the coast, though, the strength of breeze stops that frost from bedding in. Ultimately, waking up tomorrow morning, what a beautiful look we have towards the day. Lots in the way of sunshine and dry conditions. Two things you'll notice: a little bit of cloud drifting in from a frontal system sweeping in from the west, but again it remains fairly dry, and ultimately wind speeds pushing through at around 35 miles an hour. Top temperatures tomorrow, 10 degrees.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
And just before we go, as Steve mentioned, we have something special coming up on the programme tomorrow. We'll be marking International Women's Day 2022 by celebrating inspirational women from right here in the Midlands. They've been telling us what the day means to them, including Paralympic swimming champion Ellie Simmons, who spent years training in Loughborough.
It's showing that how incredible women are, and a day for women to be celebrated. Also, as well, it's about future hopes. For me, especially in sport, I hope women's sport gets showcased on TV, in the media, and has as much awareness and equality as men's sport.
I certainly agree with that. We'll have more on that on the programme tomorrow. I just want to clarify, Charlotte might have said I was aged just before the weather, and I've just searched for a definition, and it's here: having lived or existed for a long time, very old.
You have existed for a much longer time than I have, though.
Right, it's time to go, quite clearly. We have got the hour-long ITV Evening News coming up after us. We'll be having a row for the full 60 minutes. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.